So here we are at the close of play. A long, hot day in the field for the West Indians off that very promising start, and a long, hot day, I think, in the stands for England's travelling supporters. It was great, actually, to hear the sounds again of the Barmy Army and the cheers. I know the players certainly enjoyed it. After 2 years of there being no travelling supporters, they certainly arrived in force here in Antigua today. They saw a fascinating day. England reduced to 48 for 4. Alex Lees, the latest in that long line of opening batsmen after the retirement of Andrew Strauss. He was out for just 4 from 9 balls. LBW to Roach bowling round the wicket. That was 12 for 1. It was 17 for 2 when Zach Crawley was brilliantly caught down the leg side, one-handed by De Silva, the wicket-keeper, off Seals, the young fast bowler. So Crawley was out for 8. Joe Root got away nicely to start with, but then dropped on 13. Not an easy chance. The next ball, he played no stroke to Kemo Roach, shouldered arms, and was clean bowled for 13. A real shock that was. 27 for 3, 48 for 4 when Dan Lawrence, who again had a pretty good start, edged Holder, a bit of extra bounce, I think, from the tall quick bowler to Blackwood at second slip, and he was out for 20. So 48 for 4, outstrides Johnny Bairstow to join Ben Stokes on this very, very slow pitch. It looks like a beach. It's clearly been used before, and so in other words, really not in the normal way that Stokes, Bairstow, and indeed folks to come would necessarily like to play. They like to play their strokes. They had to start really from scratch, and Stokes fought his way to 36. He was dropped on 22. Put on 69 with Bairstow, a rather poor shot. Brought about his downfall, going for quite an ambitious drive. Got an inside edge and was bowled by Seals for 36. So in comes Ben Foakes, of course, batting at number 7. A lot of talk about the quality of his batsmanship. He did score 100 in his first Test match in Sri Lanka. He doesn't mind the slow stuff, actually, the slow pitch. He gets on the front foot, and he played really fluently from the very start. He put on 99 with Johnny Bairstow before he fell LBW to Holder for 42. Might have kept a little bit low. He did seem to be trapped on the crease. Second new ball taken. Chris Woakes played again beautifully. His cover drives are as good as anybody's in the game, and he finished on 24 not out, a partnership of 54 with Johnny Bairstow, who reached his 8th Test century with a sweep shot off Craig Brathwaite down towards the Barmy Army down at deep square leg. So he'll start tomorrow on 109 not out. We'll hear from him during the course of this podcast. England closing on 268 for 6. Dean Wilson is here from the Daily Mirror. Not an easy trip this for the newspaper writers, with the sun going down and the deadlines. But you're just packing your bag up, Dean, and reflecting. That was a fascinating day's cricket, really. I mean, it wasn't fast paced or anything, but it rather turned on its head there.
Yeah, absolutely. I quite like the word that Johnny Bairstow used there, grinding. He said, sometimes you just have to grind it out. A difficult position England were in when he arrived at the crease, and then by the end, I'd say England were on top. Thanks to his innings. So fascinating. Of course, whenever you come off the back of a series like the Ashes, with complete disaster and people moving on and new jobs, new faces, people making their debut, there's that fascination, that interest to what's going to happen. You just don't know. And then at 48 for 4, we thought, here we go again. Yeah. But Johnny played wonderfully. Ben Stokes, Ben Foakes. It was a really good day in the end for England.
Nice day for Johnny, because actually he gave out Alex Lees his England cap too. So obviously there's a Yorkshire connection there, but there is with the England captain Joe Root. So there must be a special connection, I guess, between those two.
Yeah, absolutely. They tried to pick the best person for that job, someone that the recipient will really remember. I think it also reflects quite well on Johnny as well, on the way that he really has emerged as a senior player in this group. He's played 80, I think it's his 81st Test match here today, but I think sometimes he hasn't quite had that seniority role, and we've talked, or the England camp have talked a lot about new roles for different players. Anderson and Broad left at home, a chance for others to step into these leadership positions. I think Johnny Bairstow really is one of those players, and from first example, gives the cap to Lees and then goes out and does the business on the field. So yeah, big tick for him.
Yeah. It was great to see travelling supporters back. I mean, they were extremely quiet, however, at 48 for 4, because I'm sitting with you guys in the press box, and we could be a cynical old lot, and it did feel like, what reset, didn't it? And the fans are pretty quiet as well.
Yeah, the fans were quite, as you say, lovely to see so many travelling England supporters. We were out in Australia, and there were some England fans there, but they were obviously, people living in Australia. They didn't have much to cheer about either out there. So, the first couple of hours here, a little bit on the quiet side. But those of us who've been around the Barmy Army and the fans know that they like to start quietly anyway.
Yeah.
The noise tends to reach a crescendo towards the end of the day. And so actually Johnny, who's an absolute fan favourite, got the timing of his innings absolutely spot on, gave them a big cheer at the back end of the day. They were singing their Johnny Bairstow song, and I think the tune that they sing to was then identified by the DJ. He put the song on, and
He recognised it, did he?
He recognised it. I love you, baby.
Oh, of course, that's a Johnny Bairstow one. Yeah.
That's the Johnny Bairstow tune. Apologies to listeners.
Nice.
And he put that on, and it was a great atmosphere. A lot of fun, and I think a lot of England fans who might have been thinking, oh, why have we come out here? But they'll have left today thinking, now we know why we've come out here.
Yeah. Problem is, though, you can't escape the fact that this latest opening partnership failed. 12 for 1, 17 for 2, both gone. I know it's too early to say anything about Alex Lees. Obviously, I would be to his ninth ball, but that's not a great start.
It's not a great start, no. I think England have had 9 different opening combinations just since the last time they toured the Caribbean, which is 3 years ago. So they do get through opening partnerships at a rate of knots at the moment, and this one didn't start particularly well. As you say, I've got no real comment to make about Lees. I hope to see more of him and make a verdict in due course, and I hope it's obviously a much more positive one. But if there was going to be any concern about what we saw, I still say it's the issue with Zach Crawley, who is a very talented player. Clearly, even Sir Viv himself was talking up Zach Crawley ahead of the game because he's got all the shots and he makes batting at times look so easy. We saw a couple of absolutely sumptuous drives from him, but then it was another drive in the fourth over of the first morning of a Test series, let alone a Test match, and he's playing a booming drive inside edge and well caught, and it's just still a bit too loose, too risky. Risk and reward. There's not enough reward for Zach Crawley to be playing as many shots so early on in his innings when he could so easily have let that one go. That was a wide one that he played at and tried to hit it through the field again. So he's got, we keep saying he'll learn, and I hope he does learn, because I do think he has that ability to score runs, make Test scoring runs easy, but there's no point in having that ability if you're not out in the middle.
We'll hear from Johnny Bairstow in a second, but just a quick word about Joe Root. I mean, I was sitting obviously behind the bowler's arm as you were, and watching Kemo Roach bowling. It's not an easy place to bowl here. You've got a bit of a slope to go up to the pitch itself, but you've got a very strong wind that blows across. And in Roach's case, it was coming across left to right, so that's the in-swinger, which he does. That is his favoured ball anyway. But he set Root up. He gave a difficult chance the ball before with one that actually just was held its own. But the one that he played no stroke to was an absolutely beautiful piece of bowling. He used that breeze. You could see it just work the ball off the finger. It's one of those, if you just watch Root being clean bowled on the highlights and not seen the ball before, or the 2 or 3 balls before, you think, what on earth is he doing? But it was a beautiful setup and a real great example of how you do use the elements like that to help you.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I know you're a proponent of the arts yourself, and so I know you appreciate watching someone like a Jimmy Anderson or a Kemar Roach. And I think of those two because obviously Kemar Roach now 33 at the sort of back end of his career, but he seems to be getting better and better, using all that experience that he's got, as you say, to set up the batsman the way that he did. And of course, Joe Root, it's not as though you're setting up Alex Lees, no. You're setting up, one of the best batsmen in the world. And it's interesting because obviously being put down that ball before, obviously in Root's mind, he's trying to sort of reset himself and make sure, no, I'm just going to, dig in a little bit here. Maybe that was a loose shot. Maybe I'm just going to be a bit more cautious. And Roach absolutely played on that. He knew what Joe Root would be thinking. Lots of people have been talking about Shane Warne and the way that he was one step ahead of batsmen. Well, Kemar Roach was one step ahead of Joe Root there. He knew what he'd be thinking, and he just bowled the perfect ball, kissed the top of off stump, see you later.
Yeah, beautiful piece of bowling. So to Johnny Bairstow then, finished the day on 109 not out, and he was very pleased with himself when he spoke to the media later.
From seeing the pitch yesterday, the day before, they were obviously worried that it was going to break up quite heavily, and there was obviously some moisture in that wicket this morning. So we knew that was going to be the case. You get through that first session, you get through that new ball, and look, credit to them. Leesy was obviously a bit unlucky, I thought, with that decision. On another day, that doesn't get given and he stays in. A good catch that got Zach, and yeah, you're off to a different start. So look, we'll take a lot of positives from today. I mean, the partnerships were definitely one of those that we can take from it. We've spoken quite a lot about taking it session by session and building those partnerships throughout, whether that's number 1 or number 11.
And how was it playing in front of English supporters again, Johnny?
Yeah, amazing. We're very fortunate, as you well know, to have such a fantastic travelling support. A support that hasn't necessarily been able to travel due to obviously the restrictions over the last couple of years. And no, they're definitely in fine fettle, aren't they? They've missed the cricket, they've missed the Caribbean, and yeah, they're definitely here in voice, and I'm sure, well, by the looks of them, they're having a good time.
They certainly are. I guess what really pleased you is the way you really had to adapt your game at the start. I mean, the three of you actually, you Stokes and Folkes, not really necessarily playing on natural games or what looks to be a very slow pitch.
Yeah, exactly that. There was obviously a bit of nibble there, and credit to their bowlers. That you look at Jason and he does. I think he bowls 7 overs and gone for 1 run or something, and he doesn't give you much to hit. So you've got to be very wary of the areas in which he's trying to exploit. And then when the ball does get softer, it is tricky to score because, like you mentioned, the pitch is on the slower side.
So what do you think a competitive total is?
Look, I think that it's going to be an interesting one tomorrow morning. That's going to be a big morning session. Hopefully we can get through that morning session. If so, we'd like to be trying to push on for 320, 330, 350, and then look, we'll see anything from there. I think it's a bonus from the start that we had.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like a 400 plus sort of pitch.
Look, I think that if you look too far ahead, you can very quickly come up short. It only takes a couple of good balls like we saw this morning. And obviously we also saw the ball keep slightly low as well and skip, so let's not look too far ahead. Let's just try and stay in the present as much as possible.
800s now, where does that rank? I mean, your celebration suggested that you put it pretty high, I thought.
Yeah, I'm pleased, Agaz, I am pleased. Yeah, like you know, I'm very passionate about playing for England, very passionate about playing my Test cricket, and yeah, I'm absolutely delighted with that. Hopefully it's been a good start to the year and hopefully that can continue. So
there's Johnny Bairstow. I must mention Ben Folkes, that fluent innings. We talk about him at number 7. Really like the way that he played today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's had some Test experience. You know, got 100 on debut, so he knows he can bat. But I thought what was terrific about his innings was that he was the one who was able to cash in on the work done before, I guess, by Ben Stokes and Johnny Bairstow, because the ball had got a bit older. Obviously, the bowlers had got through a bit of work, you know, in the heat, a little less response from the pitch, and so it was the perfect time to bat. And that's the thing about, you know, someone like a Zach Crawley. You want Zach Crawley to still be there to take advantage of those conditions. Instead, it was Ben Folkes who did so. I thought he was also really secure in his defence. At times, he faced quite a few overs of spin from Pamal, and was very tight in his defence. And as soon as the ball was over pitched, as soon as there was a bit of width, he played his strokes, had full confidence in his ability to play those strokes, and looked really, really good. I suppose in the end, you know, gone for 42. He thought he'd got one that kept a bit low, maybe not that low, just a little bit of misjudgment on his part perhaps. But just a really encouraging, really promising innings for someone who I think we all expect to be around for a very long time to come.
That's where Jason Holder's so dangerous. He's tall, but he does get that ball up on a fuller length, and I think Folkes was naturally looking to get on the back foot and actually didn't keep quite as low as he thought it might. And talking of Jason Holder, he bowled terrific spell today. He's bowled 16 overs, 9 maidens, taken 2 for 15. He was the one West Indian I thought that really held their length. This morning they all bowled that full length. I thought they did get that little bit ragged during the afternoon, but he spoke to the media afterwards too. Well, Jason, that's a bizarre day, isn't it? 48 for 4, then 200 odd for 2.
Yeah, a hard total Test cricket. I thought Johnny played really well, brought England right back in the game. Yeah, we had a really good start with the new ball, 4 wickets in the first session. But yeah, slow going after that. I thought the wicket got a lot better. It was quite easy place, quite slow. And, you know, Johnny played a really good knock.
Lengths after lunch, perhaps, do you think a bit short maybe?
I think, if I'm being critical, I just thought we leaked too many boundaries. If you look at the boundary count, I think it's pretty high, and that's something I really need to look at going into tomorrow's session. We just need to make the second new ball count as well. I think if we could get Johnny early on and probably put a little bit more pressure on Wokesy and Overton coming to push the score along, I think we pretty much will be in the game then.
Well, any idea what a good score might be? It's very difficult to tell from the side.
All I can say is I think more stuff happened with the new ball. As the ball got softer and older, it became a lot harder to poach wickets. But having said that, I think if you give yourself a really good chance up front, even with the new ball, it's a pretty easy pace wicket that you can adjust.
How do you assess Johnny Bairstow's innings there? He had to really fight quite hard to start with.
Yeah, it was an excellent innings. I can't take anything away from him. Credit must go to Johnny. He played really well. I thought he allowed the ball to come to him early on in the innings, and then he put us under pressure. When we were either too wide or too straight, he capitalised, and that's just the signs of a good player. So well played, Johnny.
And you're enjoying bowling against England at the moment, aren't you?
Not sure if I'm enjoying it. The body's a little stiff, but it was a pretty decent day. I think. The way it started, just wanted to keep things tidy and just pick up wickets when possible. I was happy to get Folks when I got him. I think that partnership was looking very, very dangerous. So to break that partnership at that stage was a plus. But again, Wokesy came out and he continued on where Folksy left off.
So what is a good score? I think it's impossible to tell. I mean, as Johnny Bairstow said, and I think Jason too, it doesn't feel like a sort of a 400, 450, or if England do get that many, the West Indies bowlers had a nightmare.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think already 268 for 6 feels very much like England are in the game. I wouldn't say that's a good score yet, but it's certainly a score that they can work with. So everything that they can get on day 2 in the morning will be a bit of a bonus, and they've got a real chance that, if things don't go well for the West Indies, we've seen it many times when England have bowled. If things don't go too well and you've still got, a player like Bairstow out in the middle who can do some real damage, England could take the game away from the West Indies. They could get up towards that 400 mark, which would be a remarkable score out there. And then, of course, they're the ones with the in the ascendancy to try and get some West Indies wickets. But already, I think England well in the game. Another 30, 40 runs maybe, if that's what they were to get tomorrow, I think they'd be very happy with that.
I must mention, of course, there's still Craig Overton, Mark Wood to come, so there's plenty of batting. Let's not forget Jack Leach either, down there at number 11. So there is some batting for England to come.